to Bad Larry.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Bad Larry Kingdom. I'm your host, Bad Larry, and today is a very exciting and I think profound issue in the X-Men verse, X-Men Omega, the conclusion to the X-Manhunt miniseries. In my experience, when multiple writers and artists work on these tie-in miniseries, they usually end up clunky and a waste of time and money. But after reading and rereading this issue and the series as a whole, and as a huge Cyclops fan, I found this series and this particular issue a sort of a relationship and character development masterpiece. The cast of characters is more like background noise. This mini series and story is simple. A man who had a dream that died, and a man who loves being a teacher, his students, and his star number one student. I wish this cover was more profound, given it being the end of this series. Cyclops' optic blast is colored incorrectly. It's just too basic for such a big end of such a significant story. B minus. Cyclops is at the home base of Rogue's Uncanny X-Men team, I guess looking to garner some support from her. Everyone can pretty much agree Professor X's dream is dead. I mean, he kind of killed it by creating Krakoa in the first place, separating all mutants from humans. Well, that didn't work out now, did it? But here's the rub. It is easy to rally behind one dream, one easily digested goal. For example, Martin Luther King Jr., I have a dream. People should be treated based on the content of their character, not skin color. Okay, see, easy, simple to get behind. And then even Apocalypse's dream. Only the strong survive, and Apocalypse is the ruler of everyone. It's a simple dream, but here is where Cyclops starts taking on too much. In the absence of a clear and simple dream, many dreams have taken root and popped up, and Cyclops feels responsible for protecting all of them. That is a big ask. It's a lot of responsibility for one guy. And some of these dreams are just like, how do you protect self expression? This is more of a constitutional right than just a mutant thing. I mean, America is quite tolerant, even the America in the comics right now. So, what are we talking about? Global tolerance for mutants? See what I mean? It starts getting convoluted and muddy and stressful. Now I understand why the X Factor team is built of these types of seemingly sweet potatoes. If you want the world to like you, put an old grandma on the team and it'll ease people's minds. On the other hand, X-Force was never about heroism and adventure. It was about doing the Black Ops job. For example, the job of possibly eliminating the baby Apocalypse, preventing him from growing up to be a monster. Well, Cyclops couldn't have that job on any of the regular X-Men's conscience, so you send in a Wolverine type guy, someone who can handle not only doing the job, but then living with it afterwards. That's what X-Force is about, not freaking adventure. And now we're stealing Superman's dream of keeping hope alive? On a side note, as an OG X-Men fan and super X-Factor fan, I'm just dismayed at how they do my boy Iceman. This is really his only feature in this whole damn issue and series. Why is he wearing clothes and looking so goofy, aha, derpy? Iceman deserves better than this. And oh my gosh, why do they love always including the imagery of Cyclops with his eyes sewn shut? Oh my gosh, these people are sick. Cyclops is so adamant that Professor X has to stay in prison. Rogue and Gambit seem so unbothered. They're totally unaffected. To me, after reading this issue multiple times, I feel Professor X let everyone in on his little plan except Cyclops and his team. You'll see later on, the tone is that everyone else has already gotten the message, but Cyclops in particular needs to learn a lesson. You can see Cyclops is stressed, his hair is disheveled, he seems just overwhelmed and frustrated. What I will say is that Magic is a true ride or die. She is the best lieutenant Cyclops has ever had on any team, bar none. Gambit is always sort of sly, has that little sly look on him, but here you just feel by the look on his face he knows the secret but is refusing to tell. Rogue talks about Cyclops playing a game with needing Professor X locked up, And maybe she's right. Maybe she is trying to clue Cyclops in, and he just isn't picking up the clues because he's too close. But in every game, there is a winner and a loser. And if the loser is smart, he or she will learn from the losses in order to do better next time. And here Rogue gives Cyclops the Wadita, the ultimate clue to the puzzle. It's all about redemption. But here's the kicker. The redemption is not needed for Professor X. It is for Cyclops, actually. The spin here is fantastic, and it connects together later in the issue. Rogue's words actually silences Cyclops, as they should have, and they have planned to leave without the Uncanny X-Men support, which was all part of Professor X's plan, I think, and Tessa of X-Force as well. Their plan, I guess. The clues are in the art. Cyclops says they're wrong about Professor X, but look at Gambit and Rogue. They know the secret. They're kind of laughing, just waiting for the timing until it hits Cyclops. And folks, the lesson will hit Cyclops. It's going to hit him hard, all right. Some characters got new upgraded costumes like Juggernaut, Cyclops, and here we see Storm. But to be honest, I don't understand why she's all armored up. Storm has always been a more naked, scantily clad character, which connects her more to the elements and to the land. This warrior armor just doesn't fit her sensibilities to me, but that's just my opinion. Storm is going on and on about symbolism, the importance of symbolism, and just like when you see that, let's say like the outline of the Twin Towers now, or you see an old picture of the Twin Towers, the symbolism evokes a sense of patriotism, a time when America got punched hard on our own soil and we came together to help and support each other. It also symbolizes our fighting spirit. Storm is saying because Professor X blew up the ship Agnew and it was televised, he took on that symbol. And when the human people see Professor X, they now see a terrorist. The same with Cyclops. Similar to Jesus' symbolic crucifixion on the cross, his life to save everyone else's eternal souls. What if Professor X's symbolic moment of blowing up the Agnew, sacrificing his own freedom and reputation in order to save just one? Cyclopses. Stay with me, people. You'll get it in a second. But first, when did Storm become freaking Thor? Calling her little walking stick to her like Thor calls Mjolnir. Man, copycat. As much of a master strategist Cyclops has become, it is impossible to beat the computer. Like Magnus Carlsen, the best chess player ever, maybe, will still lose the majority of the time to Stockfish, the AI computer at chess. The computer is just better and calculating variables and seems to always make the perfect move every time. This is what Cyclops is up against. He is Magnus Carlsen, but Tessa is a freaking Stockfish. And now they have a huge ass robot? What are they going to use that for? Cyclops is pretty much down to a 3-person team now. Him, Magic, and Kid Omega against everyone else. Where is his team at? And I get Pyro is Australian. They never take things too seriously anyway, but you'll see everyone seems to be laughing at Cyclops and his little trio trying to stop Professor X. They all seem to know the inside story. And here Pyro does reverse psychology on Kid Omega, asking him if he has anything to share, knowing that Pyro has the actual secret. Even if you're gonna lose, you can still look badass doing it. Cyclops thinks he's found Xavier's ship, asks Magic if she's got a longer sword. She replies, I always have a longer sword. Oh man, this is badass, their move! As the ship that Cyclops believes Xavier to be on flies overhead, him and Magic execute the CR-20 maneuver, aka the Red Surfer! Badass! Cyclops boosting Magic with the controlled optic blast, allowing her to ride her long sword and look badass while attacking the ship. I love this move! Symbolism again, or maybe juxtaposition. You see a ship and then adjacent you see Professor X, and because of the proximity of the two images, we as humans assume Professor X is inside the ship. What does assume make? An ass out of you and me. So Lilandra is God mode at everything. She's a brain surgeon now, successfully removing Professor X's brain tumor. My whole statement during part 6 of him being so selfish, bringing Lilandra back in the egg instead of himself. I take it all back. He was being totally selfish. Now he has his wife, and obviously he knew she would be able to remove the tumor, so he has his health again. Well played, Professor X. As magic gets nearer and nearer to the ship, Lilandra says the X-Men, meaning Cyclops and his trio team, have flown too close to the sun, referencing Icarus, who was taught and told but disobeyed, and when he flew too close to the sun, his wings melted and he crashed and died. The point is, the X-Men this day will lose. They're going to take the L, hopefully learn a lesson. But they can look heavy metal, kick ass in the process. Cyclops and Magic destroy the ship. They think it's game over. Magic is a tough ass cookie, tough as it comes. She gets hit in the back with some shrapnel. She takes the fall back to Earth like a champ. I like how Cyclops calls her a soldier, because that's what she is: loyal, tough, well trained. Magic takes a freaking huge chunk of shrapnel out of the back and keeps it moving tough. After the blast, she summoned from Limbo a giant ass demon monster. This is back to Magnus versus Stockfish. Cyclops believes in his plan, this big ass demon monster, to sway the game to his favor. But Tessa planned for that. Remember her big ass blue robot? Checkmate. Cowboy Hat Man John Wraith as a teleporter. Maybe the best overall in comparison. There's no tells when he does his thing. There's no smoke or light discs, nothing. He just appears and then he disappears. John is piloting this blue robot and freaking RKO's it into the ocean, the demon monster. You can see the artist clearly trace this image directly, but I'm okay with it. It's cool. As John is absolutely ripping this monster's limbs off, destroying the creature, all while reciting scripture, Cyclops comes in with the Uber Blast. His only immediate concern is if Magic is alive. This page really got to me big time. Cyclops doesn't love Magic like he loves Jean Grey or anything, but it's a love similar to that I think of how Professor X has for Cyclops. A favoritism. Cyclops was Professor X's favorite and first student, the one who followed his dream the closest, and now Magic is that to Cyclops. It's a deeper connection than even family, I think. It's hard to find a partner who has your back no matter what in any situation, just because they're your partner. Tessa has considered Magic the greatest threat to their plan, and now she's down. Not dead, just down. Now we see the real ship coming out of the water, the ship Professor X is really on. Once again, Magic is not dying. I thought she was when I first read this, and I was in shock. But I love her banter spirit, calling Cyclops slim even though she knows he hates it, but then immediately tells him to give him hell. One final teleportation before she passes out. Cyclops is now solo on the hull of the ship. Where is Psylocke? Beast, Juggernaut, where's his team? My boy is out here doing team quests all by himself now. The tear in his eye shows his connection to his first teacher, his mentor, his leader, his father figure. Cyclops is showing trying to use violence here when Professor X wants to try to use reason. It shows there's a difference to their approaches, like a patient father dealing with a temperamental toddler. Professor X hits Cyclops with the full abandonment angle, which, if Cyclops was honest, is the honest angle. Cyclops' real father abandoned him and his brother to be a space pirate. His current wife has essentially abandoned him to be a space phoenix again. Most of the former X-Men and mutants have kind of abandoned him to go off on their own to do their own thing around the country and the world. So yeah, Professor X is right on the money. At the core, Cyclops just can't handle Professor X leaving him for good. Even if he hates him right now, Cyclops can't bear not having Professor X around, knowing he's close, I think. Cyclops tries to say he's emotionally disconnected, that the fact that Professor X killed the crew of the Agnew is why he's so determined to lock Professor X up, like Cyclops is now some sort of super cop out for justice. But here's the real tea. The whole deal, it was all a lie. Yep, everything Professor X did was to take the heat and keep it off Cyclops. I included some tidbits from X-Men Xavier's Secret, where the whole thing was revealed. When Cyclops was put on trial by Orcus, this is where they sewed Cyclops' eyes shut, and Cyclops was going to be the fall guy for the entire mutant race. He would be the most hated guy by humanity and everyone. Well, Professor X decided to step in and save Cyclops. And that is what this whole miniseries is all about. Professor X tells this reporter that Cyclops is his son in every way that counts. So Professor X made a bunch of clones using Mr. Sinister's tech, and when the ship blew up, the crew was already dead. They were just a bunch of already dead clones. So in order to save Cyclops, his name and his reputation, Professor X sacrificed everything to take the heat off Cyclops, what a father would do for a son. Now that Professor X's plan worked, he couldn't just sit in jail for the rest of his life, not after receiving that distress call from his actual daughter Xandra. To him, Professor X, his dream is dead. He's enemy number one, and even his favorite, Cyclops, hates him now. What is the point of even staying on Earth? Let's bounce, go live out the rest of life with his wife and daughter in the Shi'ar Empire. But Cyclops can't hear it. He just can't. He can't accept Professor X leaving. So he draws a line in the sand saying he'll die before letting Professor X leave. Now, Professor X planned for this. He didn't set up this whole elaborate plan to save Cyclops just to let him die. No, this is the secret the other X-Men vets knew that they didn't tell Scott. Professor X says, boy, I ain't gonna let you die. She, meaning Storm, isn't gonna let you, because obviously Professor X set this up. I still don't know why they make Storm so OP, why she has her base set up in Atlanta and not Africa, but whatever. She's now able to take raw lightning, make a bow and arrow out of it, and shoot the arrow across the world and hit a man with it. Perfect shot. Okay, whatever. It hits Cyclops, knocking him off the ship, only for Rogue to catch him. What she says is profound at this circle back. She says, I got you, we got you. Rogue was in on it the whole time, knowing she and the rest of the mutants were instructed by Professor X to wait and then catch Cyclops at the end like a safety net. I think this is why a lot of the OG X-Men like Rogue, Gambit, Wolverine didn't change uniforms, is to show they really didn't change, but Cyclops did change. So he got a new uniform. Everything is tying together. But Cyclops still doesn't get it. It's like telling someone who's drowning to just relax, be calm, lean back, and float. No, what do? They flail around like a cat in a knapsack. Cyclops tries a few last-ditch efforts to try and stop Professor X from leaving. He still has Kid Omega. But what the F is Beast and Psylocke doing? Beast is more concerned about the tech on the cool Shi'ar ship, and Psylocke looks totally uninterested in the whole thing. Did Professor X get to them as well? Like I said earlier, it always seemed like in this issue it was Cyclops, Magic, and Kid Omega versus everyone. The X-Men, Cyclops' X-Men, have one last shot to stop the ship, Temper. I love this anime style named attacks. Awesome! But that damn John Wraith, he teleports Professor X's whole ship out of the way. Temper's attack misses. And just like that, Professor X and Lilandra make a clean getaway. Stockfish, the computer, beats Magnus Carlsen. Checkmate. Cyclops is accepting his reality. He lost. And now the pressure. He starts talking about we lose. He's taking on all of mutant kind on his shoulders. The planning for this issue was set up perfectly months ago, way back in X-Men issue number 3, when we get a glimpse of Cyclops almost having a panic attack in the bathroom. The current reality and pressure is really affecting Cyclops, and if you know anyone who suffers from panic attacks, it's not a matter of if they will have an episode, it's just a matter of when they will have the next panic attack. And that moment is about to be now. Oh shit, here we go! Cyclops is in full panic attack mode. His optic blast, unchecked, uncontrolled. He's letting loose. This is showing again Cyclops' raw, awesome power, pushing everyone and everything back. From a human perspective, this is the scary part about mutants. When someone as powerful as Cyclops loses it, boy, it's dangerous. But Rogue's team, the Uncanny X-Men, were kind of ready for this. Calling out for Wolverine. He's the guy to jump on the grenade to save everyone. He's done it before, remember? Imagine the pain Wolverine is going through. having to inch his way closer and closer to Cyclops. All the while, his flesh is being ripped off his bones, only to heal and be ripped off again. Ooh, this hurts. How does Cyclops survive this? There's no Krakoa egg to bring him back from the dead. Oh man, Wolverine has no foot. Cyclops really effed him up, but Wolverine is the best at what he does, and that is shit like this. Now we switch artists and writers clearly, and the tone all changes. Now that Professor X is all clear from his tuma, he decides he needs to go back to Earth to have this grand goodbye with all the homies. This just doesn't make any sense to me. Why would he come back? So as you can see, Cyclops is still alive, and without it being stated or explained, we know that back in Anchorage, Cyclops has Zorn, who is a healer, which is how I think Cyclops isn't dead right now after being gored in the guts by Wolverine. I'm not saying Zorn healed Cyclops as a fact, but as a most likely scenario. The X-Men teams arrive to say their goodbyes, but this is what I don't get. Is Cyclops still didn't learn the lesson by this point. He's still on the super cop mode, try to get one last time to get Professor X go back to prison. So what does a teacher do? He teaches. Professor X lays it out, Barney style, to Cyclops. He's retiring from mutant shit on Earth. Professor X never wanted to be a field general or a politician or some mutant ruler leader. He says all he ever wanted to do was be a professor. Professor X tells Cyclops to man up, because with Professor X really leaving, probably for good, Cyclops is next up at bat for the head honcho position. I only wish he didn't have to have that stupid helmet on, so at least the people he cares about and care about him can look him in the eyes one last time. I am typically not a fan of mini-series tie-ins, but this was a good one, and this ending was in most parts pretty great. I was still focused on relationships, character development, loss, and sacrifice, and these are the most interesting stories. I'm interested in the direction the mutants and the X-Men will go in now that Professor X is out of the picture. I personally enjoyed this series and this issue very much. But let me know what you thought down in the comments below. Hit the like button, subscribe so you never miss an episode. Be good to one another. Peace.